Under the general rule of maintaining harmony, we have so far discussed two important rules. One, begin each paragraph with a topic sentence that expresses the main idea. Number two, relate every supporting sentence to the main idea. And number three, which is what we're going to talk about now, is use linking words to connect ideas. Okay? With or without the linking words, each sentence ought to be connected one way or another to the topic sentence, and therefore related. However, when using linking words or connectors, you make explicit the otherwise unstated relationship among sentences and ideas. Remember that your job as an academic writer is to make the reader's job as simple and straightforward as possible. You don't want them. You don't want them to put in more effort than necessary to get the point across. This is where academic writing differs from non-academic writing, particularly fiction. Remember, your purpose is to inform and perhaps persuade the reader, but not to entertain the reader. Many of the conventions that differ between academic and fiction writing are rooted in a difference of purpose. There are a number of ways of grouping linking words. Because linking words are used to link supporting details, and there are, as mentioned before, 3 types of supporting details, we can group linking words into 3 categories. Linking words for clarifying, linking words for proving, and linking words for developing. Each of these larger categories has subcategories that roughly overlap with the subcategories mentioned under Rule 2 when we discussed supporting details. We mentioned that supporting details may restate the topic sentence, define key words in the topic sentence, and compare and contrast ideas in the topic sentence with other ideas. And therefore, for these various functions, we have certain words and phrases that clarify that function and make it crystal clear how sentences are related. So for example, under restatement and definition, we have the words and phrases in other words, put differently, to repeat, again, this is equal to saying, to vary the statement. When we're making comparisons, we can say in the same way, similarly, just like, just as, likewise, and still. For contrasting, we can use the words and phrases but, however, on the other hand, on the contrary, yet, nevertheless, despite, in spite of, even though, in contrast, instead, and rather. When we want to give particulars or give additional information, we can use the following words and phrases. Specifically, to be specific. In particular, also, and then, to, plus, in addition, furthermore, moreover, again, on top of that, another, first, second, third. To give illustrations and examples, we can use the following. As an illustration, for example, for instance, to illustrate this point, by way of example. And we have several linking words for proving the topic sentence, such as provided that, given that, as indicated by, as reported by, as shown by, for this reason, because, as demonstrated by. And finally, we have a set of linking words that will help you develop the topic sentence. Because, since, so, consequently, as a result, therefore, then, accordingly, hence, and thus. Besides these three broad categories of linking words for clarifying, proving, and developing, we also have linking words that have other functions. So we have linking words for summarizing, and we have linking words for showing purpose. Some examples of linking words that are used to summarize include in summary, in conclusion, to conclude, as I have shown, as has been stated, in other words, in brief, to sum up, in short, on the whole, all in all. And to show purpose, we can use the following: for this reason, for this purpose, so that this may happen, in order that. It's one thing to know the meaning of a linking word, but the real challenge is using it correctly. This is because linking words may be subordinating conjunctions, coordinating conjunctions, adverbs, or prepositions. This is why I've illustrated many of the linking words with examples modeling their proper use. So let's take a look at these examples. Number one, as a consequence, students will have much less time to interact with their parents and siblings. So as a consequence is a prepositional phrase, and what comes after it must be an independent clause. While this is plausible, rather than completely eliminating homework, measures should be taken to limit homework to a healthy amount so that family time is not intruded upon. While is a subordinating conjunction. It's used in complex sentences in order to introduce a dependent clause, okay? And it indicates a contrast. So that is used to introduce a dependent clause as well, and subordinating, it's a subordinating conjunction, and it indicates a purpose. For example is also a prepositional phrase. It's used to give an example of something that was mentioned previously, okay? And it's followed by a comma, and after the comma you have an independent clause. And finally, all in all indicates a summation or a summary of what was said previously. It is used in the beginning of a sentence, okay, just like you see here, and it's usually followed by a comma. In conclusion, the advantages brought about by online instruction, such as ease of access and cost effectiveness, overshadow the possible problems related to the quality of instruction. The phrase in conclusion is what's called a prepositional phrase, and we use it to introduce a sentence that sums up the main idea of a paragraph or thesis of an essay. However, one could not even teach elementary mathematics in a public school without having majored in the subject. However is a conjunctive adverb that's used to indicate a contrast. Its meaning is similar to while and although. It can come in the beginning of a sentence or in the middle. Many students use however like a coordinating conjunction, so they use it to combine independent clauses along with a comma before it. However, it's an adverb, so you can only use it to combine independent clauses if you place a semicolon before it. As a result, many students desirous of post-secondary education are prevented from pursuing their ambitions. As a result is a prepositional phrase that indicates the consequence of something that was mentioned before. And finally, online education, on the other hand, is relatively inexpensive, if not altogether free. On the other hand is also a prepositional phrase that indicates a contrast or alternative. It can be used in the beginning or middle of a sentence. To cite a personal example, I frequently use a single emoji when sending a text to my friends and family. To cite an example is used in the beginning of a sentence to introduce an example of what was mentioned before. In addition, text messaging is often an impulsive activity. In addition is used to give more info on an issue that you've already given supporting details on. In other words, adolescents may enjoy their year off so much that they may simply decide against ever returning to school, thinking that their entry-level job or cosmopolitan lifestyle will satisfy them forever. In addition is used to give more information on an issue that you've already given supporting details on. Therefore, if the examples of families they see on television consist mostly of 1 or 2 child households, they will likely favor that for themselves as well. Therefore is a conjunctive adverb that usually expresses a logical consequence. Thus, students in single-sex schools can interact with each other quite naturally and comfortably. Thus has a similar meaning to therefore. It's usually used in the beginning of a sentence. To illustrate this point, boys tend to be more eager than girls to answer questions and to participate in classroom activities. To illustrate is used to give a concrete representation of an abstract concept. In particular, computers have made information more readily available to students. In particular is used to develop an idea further by giving more specific details.